Hello, Serious Survivor here. The purpose of this video is to briefly discuss a lot of the different acronyms and terminology that's associated with bugging out, prepping, and things such as that. This video will be in somewhat alphabetical order, and we try to cover as many of the terms associated with prepping as we can here. So let's get started. PALS is a pouch attachment ladder system, and this is the part of the MOLLE system that allows you to add storage. Prep. This is a shortened version of the word prepare, and it's often used as a verb to describe the act of preparation or preparing. Prepper. This is a term used to describe an individual who is always prepared, or a survivalist. Preps. This is slang for preparations, and this term is generally applied to the items that we actually store, our preps. Precursor. This is an event, action, or set of circumstances that directly or indirectly lead into a major event. Potable water. This is a drinkable or usable water supply. PFAC. This is a personal first aid kit. PMA, a positive mental attitude. ppm, ppt, ppb. This stands for parts per million, parts per thousand, parts per billion, and this is usually applied to water purity. PSK. This is an acronym that means personal survival kit. Pollyanna. Someone who denies that a major disaster will ever occur or SHTF will ever happen. Pace count. The average number of steps an individual takes within a specified distance, used in determining the distance traveled over certain amounts of time. Perimeter. The outer edge or area of your location refers to the position in which the outermost defenses are placed and defended. Paraffin wax. A chemical preservative that retards moisture loss and prevents the spoilage of food, used most often in canning. Paracord. This is specially braided cordage made of a durable, lightweight nylon kern mantle rope, the same material found in parachute cord. PERK, P-E-R-K, Personal Emergency Relocation Kit. Peak oil, used to describe a time when the world's oil supplies will go into a state of irreversible decline. Power grid, the infrastructure that's built and maintained by local power companies for the purpose of delivering electricity to homes and businesses. POA, point of aim. POI, point of impact. POTUS, President of the United States. PRD, personal radiation detector. Pressure canner, a device used to preserve foods and avoid botulism. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Quick clot, a clotting agent used to stop bleeding fast by trained people, but only when direct pressure doesn't work. Rations, supplies that people will need and have access to on a daily basis, such as food and water. Resection, the process of determining one's position on a map using 2 or 3 known objects and their bearings. Retreat can have 2 meanings. A place or refuge that's prepared in advance and sometimes referred to as a bug-out location. Retreat can also mean pulling back in combat. RCS, Rainwater Collection System. Recon, reconnaissance. This is gathering intelligence or information about your enemy or an area. Rendezvous point, a predetermined location where you and your group can meet up before continuing to evacuate to your designated bug-out location. RP, rally point. Similar to rendezvous point, this is an area or location designated for the group or troops or individuals to meet up, rally at, and depart for their bug-out location. The rule of threes. The basic rule of threes is 3 minutes without oxygen, 3 hours without shelter, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. But there's so much more that can be applied to this rule, or I call it suggestions. SBR, short-barreled rifle. This is a rifle that has a barrel length of less than 16 inches. S&R, search and rescue. Sheeple. This refers to people who always follow the crowd and are unable to think for themselves. Shelf life. This is the useful life of a product in home storage. In the context of food, this is the time that the food can be stored before it changes color, flavor, texture, or is unacceptable for consumption. When it comes to batteries, though, the shelf life of a battery refers to the time that it can be stored and still have at least 85% of its original charge. SHTF, shit hits the fan, and this is a term that preppers use to describe a catastrophic event or a world and life-changing or altering event in which things may not ever return to normality. SNAFU or snafu, situation normal all effed up, and this is closely related to FUBAR, and it's a military term that means everything that can go wrong is going wrong. SOP, Standard Operating Procedure or Standard Operating Procedures. Some even call it Standard Operating Protocol. SITREP, Situation Report, SOL. This acronym means shit out of luck, and it's used basically to describe a helpless situation, and it's a variation of the phrase out of luck. Solar Oven. This is a cardboard or similar box lined with aluminum foil to bake food using only the sun's energy. Spec Ops, a special operations unit or a special operations soldier. Survival Cache. This is a collection of items that you bury or you hide or you store at a location far away from your home, and this cache would ideally be buried in between your house and your bug out location so you can resupply yourself as you travel towards your BOL. SCARE, SCARE, Social Chaos and Response Emergency. Sniper, an individual or team that secures a position that gives them a tactical advantage and superior line of sight over their enemy, usually employed with stealth tactics. Seed bank, a stockpile of seeds to be used after a doomsday scenario has taken place. SFWF, shelter, fire, water, and food. Silcock key or fire hydrant wrench. A fire hydrant wrench can unlock a source of hidden or otherwise unattainable water, the local fire hydrant, and a silcock key can do the same with different types of spigots. SIP, shelter in place. Snowflake, someone with a radical mindset, a pejorative term for an entitled person. SF is solar flares. This is similar to the CME, an ejection of sun particles in the form of radiation. A coronal mass ejection, CME, precedes the solar flare. Solar heater, a device that's used to heat a room or heat water by harnessing the power of the sun. Stealth, these are tactics incorporated to assure that one or a group traverses an area without detection. Survivalist, someone who's taken the time to develop the skills and acquire the knowledge necessary to live through a survival situation. Sustainable living, a lifestyle where people do things to avoid relying on supplies from the outside world. SWAT, special weapons and tactics. Shortwave radio. TSHTF, the shit hits the fan. TBTF, too big to fail. TPTB, the powers that be. Teotwaki, or TEOTWAWKI, the end of the world as we know it. The crunch, basically another term for SHTF or the end of the world. Truther, someone or a group that attempts to expose corruption and or conspiracy. 2 is 1, 1 is none. This is a rule of prepping that means a crucial piece of survival gear is at some point probably going to break, so having a second piece is always a good idea. UN, United Nations. Unhardened, this is electronics that cannot withstand an EMP. UV, ultraviolet. Vacuum sealer, a device that's designed to remove all oxygen in a plastic or mylar bag that's used for the purpose of extending the shelf life of food and perishables. Vagabond stove, a primitive stove made from a coffee can. VOA, violence of action, a military term which implies that the more violent and unexpected an initial action is, the more likely an enemy is to retreat, surrender, or succumb to the attack. Water filter. This is a device that removes only solid particles from a water supply generally. Water purifier. This is a device or instrument that removes all contaminants from a drinking supply. SHTF. When the shit hits the fan. WROL. Without rule of law. This is a term to describe a situation when the police and other government bodies or institutions that are normally in place to uphold the law have lost complete control of the situation. And this results in a lawless environment. And these situations most often will occur after catastrophic happenings or events. Yo-yo, you're on your own. Zombie. This is a slang term that's used to refer to people who are not always prepared and they're still aggressive enough to try to attempt to take the resources that preppers may have when SHTF. ZA, zombie apocalypse. This is usually used to refer to the chaos that people who haven't prepared for any type of emergency will most likely cause. Well, that's a lot of different terms and acronyms that we tend to see or hear when we're talking about prepping and other things similar to that. There's always more that can be added to the list, and please, if I left any out, which I'm sure I did, then let me know in the comments below. I hope this video was informative, and I hope it helps out. And for now, Serious Survivor, out.